Hi, I'm Callie from CRK Training. Welcome back to our Friday blog videos. And in today's video, we're doing another session with Fiona. So many of you may remember her from the head lowering video where we taught her to put her head down. And that is going quite well. She actually will offer it sometimes, which is a nice behavior to have her offer. And when I ask for it, I can get it really easily now. She's definitely improved her manners around the food too, and just her attention has improved so much. And this is 2 weeks from the day that we shot that first video that I shared with you. And I work with her about 3 times a week just to kind of give you a time frame, an idea of how much work she's had between when you first saw her and between today. So today what I'm going to be doing is just working with her a little bit on the ground, and we're going to be focusing on how do we get her to start to understand how to yield her shoulders so that when we're leading, we can get her to move away from us so that she's not walking into us. So yielding the shoulders sounds kind of fancy, but all that it basically means is that we can ask her to move over so that when we feel crowded, we can get her a little bit farther away from us so that we have a little bit more distance. Most horses just tend to be easier to do this on one side than the other. So it's like they find it easier to move their shoulders one direction than the other. And you have to keep in mind that with that, let me just get her to back up here a second. Good girl. That with that, it's not always that they're just being obstinate in one side. It's just they can't quite figure out how to move their body in the way that you're asking them. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. I'm going to work with her for 5 or 10 minutes here. And I think what you'll find is that as we work on that, you're going to see a lot of other stuff kind of come into it. Like even there, as I just asked her to take a step back. When I'm doing these ground sessions with the horse, especially with her, I still kind of consider them like the initial groundwork. And a lot of it is even just teaching the horse how to not only have manners, but also how to teach them to yield to pressure. So that I'm using a positive reinforcement, but part of the positive reinforcement is teaching her to yield to pressure instead of push into it. Good girl. So you'll notice that I don't usually escalate the pressure, I just kind of keep it the same. I'm going to just take her a step back here because we're coming right on top of the camera. So you'll notice a lot of what I'm doing here, not just with the shoulders, but even things like that with the backup, is that I'm putting pressure on. So I'm asking for something with pressure. Don't get grumpy. I'm asking for something with pressure, but then I will just kind of keep the pressure, pretty soft really, and just wait. And then I'll reinforce when she does the right thing. And then there's also times like you just saw right there, where if she gets a little bit nasty with me, I'm just going to tell her to step away. And that's just kind of, it's technically speaking, it's a punishment, but I consider it just kind of a setting a boundary and making it clear to her which behaviors I'm not going to tolerate. Okay, so now we'll go into the working on getting her to yield her shoulders. So this direction is easier for her, as I started to kind of talk about it a little bit. A lot of times, so usually have one direction that's easier. So walk on. We're going to start by walking. I find that this is sometimes easier to start at the walk, where you have just a little bit of movement. And then I'll try to find a place where she's naturally going to tend to go out a little easier. And I'm going to step into her. Good girl. So my arena is on a slant, and as we come down this hill, I just know it's going to be easier for her to kind of drift with her shoulders, so I ask for it there. And if you missed what I did, is I basically just stepped into her. Good girl. So that it's teaching her that when I step into you, can you just move away? And it ends up teaching her a lot of other stuff too, because we're kind of working on a little bending. Good girl. Woo. So there, I actually didn't do as good with setting her up. And since she just kind of walked around me like that, I'm not going to reinforce. I'm going to come around here. I'm going to ask for just the halt again. Whoa. Good girl. So if she ever forgets like her halts or forgets her manners or any of that stuff, then we just take a step back, we work on that a little bit, and then we go into whatever we were working on again. Walk on. So I'll show it this direction one more time, and then we'll change and we'll go where it's a little bit more difficult for her. So this way you can kind of see what I'm trying to get. Good girl. Good girl. So it's just her moving her shoulders over so that she moves away from me as I step into her. And then I'm getting that kind of nice little bend with the neck as well. Okay, so now we're going to change directions. I'm going to come on this side. We'll start by just walking here so she kind of gets the idea that I'm on this side now. Walk on. Good girl. Ooh. Ooh. Good girl. So everything is just not quite as sharp on this direction. So right here I'm going to start asking for it. I'm stepping into her. So you see at this side, she doesn't quite get it. Good girl. Now there at the end, I felt a little bit of a give from my hand. So I'm going to take that. But you can see how much stiffer she was this way. Walk on. And now I might try to feel her places and see if there's somewhere that she just naturally wants to drift out a little bit more. You can see I'm using my hand. Good girl. And whenever I use my hand in this kind of a manner, I'm putting a fingertip pressure. So I'm not pushing on her shoulder like this. That will tend to make horses push against that. And when she just walks off as I'm standing, good girl. I'll usually ask her to back up a little bit. No. So even for her, just standing in between doing things is really good. Okay. Walk on. Good girl. So here I'm going to switch my hands. Come into her. Now she's not like there where she just kind of kept walking. Good girl. I had her slow down, and then when she slowed down, I was better able to push her over. And a lot of times that'll be their response on their more difficult side, is they'll just start trying to go faster because they're not sure what to do, and faster and pushing through seems like the easiest thing. So that's where I'll slow it down a little bit, and then you're more likely to get that sideways move. So I can do the same thing here. I'll see if she'll just do it from a standstill. So I'm just asking for her to yield her shoulders. She might think I'm asking for back. That's all right. Good girl. So as soon as I get a movement over with either of those front legs, I'm going to take that. Good girl. So there was a little bit wiggly, but again, this is just an example of you take the little things and you keep building on them. Good girl. And I think that was actually a good one to end on. I feel like she really got it there. I didn't have to use my hand on her shoulder. And again, it doesn't look as good as the other side yet, but that's fine. It's taking the little baby steps, building on each of them, and then, and then eventually, you get where you need to be. So we're going to go back a step. We're going to come back over here, and stand where we were again. Ooh, good girl. Okay, so this is going to wrap up our session today with Fiona. I hope you'd enjoyed it. Any questions or comments, go ahead and put them below. And as always, if you're watching this anywhere besides crktrainingblog.com, go there. That's where the best comments and the best conversation always happens. Thanks for watching.